just click. And sometimes they don't. We all have those moments when you spin your set of hands. I need it to flow.
Hi, everyone. Hold on a second.
Okay, man, maybe that's too high. But hey, you're going to be fine. We get it. And we got it. It's the beauty of creating. The moment when
Okay, there we go. Runaway video as I'm going on air. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So today I'm just doing a reaction to this video that the Royal Grift posted. Thank you, Royal Grift, for your excellent work as usual. Yeah, this video came out August 9th, 2020. Yeah, I don't remember it. I don't know. You know, there's so much going on. This is in the middle of the COVID psyop. So I think, everything going on at this time, I didn't really pay close attention to this. And I didn't have, as time has gone on, I've been able to see more and more this whole orchestration of the globalists with BLM and everything else, because this was in the height of BLM and the riots. Hi, Patricia. Hope you're doing well. So I'm just going to be looking at this video and just doing a little reacting to it from what I've gathered over the years. And I'm more than happy. I hope that others will chime in for what they think of this. So this is Harry. So again, as the Royal Grift pointed out, color of change refers to a color revolution, which is when communism took over China. It was called the Color Revolution. And so here we have in America, in the West, another color revolution. They're calling it color of change. And they're literally using color, black and white, to foster intense and to oppress us and to bring in communism at the end of the day. That's what the whole mission is. It's saying, oh, your entire country and your government needs to go down because it's just so racist, right? So now we have, the exact opposite going on, reverse racism going on. I mean, it's absolutely insane. But this is because the communists need to create chaos in order to take over. They need to get rid of ICE, get rid of the police, get rid of the government. They want to destroy, kill. They don't care who they kill. They don't care who they destroy. They just want to cause complete chaos in the country where nothing's getting done. Everybody's going crazy. And then the communists will step in and say, don't worry, we'll take care of it. We'll straighten things out. You got your new communist leader here. So that's basically the sum of it, of what's going on. These riots tomorrow is part of it, of course. But let's go back to August 9th. So Harry and Meghan are absolutely, in my opinion, with 100% working with the royal family and doing this and trying to destroy America. And so here, August 9th, 2020, what was Harry saying with this gentleman here? And I use that phrase loosely. So let's see. The first irony is saying stop hate for profit. I mean, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have profited enormous amounts of money from the hate watching they get from inciting hatred and divisiveness and, causing this rift, this attacks on the royal family and whatnot. I mean, of all people, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have benefited the most from hate, and they continue to profit from hate. Everything Meghan does. Look at Meghan's last twerking video and obvious fake belly bump. She's again profiting from that. And as Imran Ahmed pointed out, that's exactly the point. They want to hate watching or instigating people is getting clicks.
Rashad, I know that you've been working on Stop Hate for Profit for several months now, and it's been incredibly successful. But its focus is on demanding reforms, specifically from Facebook as part of this campaign, particularly around.
So he's referring to the censorship now. So the censorship complex, what he calls reforms, in other words, censorship, working on with Facebook.
Around online hate speech. And I'd like to ask.
Okay, so let's just mention hate speech. I'm sure all of you know hate speech is just a phrase that the globalists, Marxist communists use to shut you up if you don't agree with them. Like this diagram shows, they're saying free speech is debates and conversations and criticisms, but hate speech is racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, etc. And at first, that sounds like, yeah, that makes sense because this is a very clever operation. But in reality, one example is if you say there are men and there are women, and that's it, a biological fact, that's considered hate speech because it's transphobic. So that's just one example. So in other words, hate speech is a weapon Marxist, communists, globalists as well are using to shut you up. If you criticize anything they do, it's hate speech. So it's very clever. You see how clever and manipulative they're being? But it's diabolical and evil at the same time. And of course, that perfectly describes Prince Harry.
Two things about online hate speech. First, can you get into what online hate speech is, how it's defined and how it spreads? Because there are so many people out there that don't actually know. So give us your definition.
And by the way, this video is only 17 minutes long. So if I make it all the way through, this won't be a long video.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at hate a lot of different ways. And when we talk about hate here, we mean something very specific. We're not talking about someone who may be watching and doesn't like my hat and says something about that might.
It's so funny he mentions the hat because I was thinking how stupid his hat looks. This guy is such a clown. Anyways, I think he purposely wears it to irritate people.
Might be unfriendly, although I don't know why they would do that. I will say what we are saying here is sort of connected to this idea of bullying that really rose in awareness in the last decade and was an attempt to distinguish everyday teasing and conflict on younger people from actual harassment and violence, especially harassment and violence that is targeted at people based on their.
Well, harassment and violence are already against the law. So we don't need Rashid here with his Marxist communist agenda. So this is a lie. Basically, he's obfuscating, he's lying. He's like, oh, it's about violence and targeting and stalking. That's already illegal. Right? So, this whole thing is just one big Tavistock deception, I'm telling you.
Race or their gender or their sexual orientation or gender identity. Young people were being attacked, not just by their peers, but also by their teachers in some places, all because the norms of harassment and stigma that
By the way, they extend harassment and stigma to microaggressions. Have you heard of that one? So if you just look the wrong way, God forbid, that's an act of violence to them. If you criticize anything, everything is violence to them. So I mean, they pervert and distort every definition, which is what the globalists have done from the beginning. Distorting the definition of pandemic in order to declare one when there wasn't one, and like everything else, they just this is what they're doing. It's so. Anyways, here we go.
Administrators allowed. And so then you go onto online platforms and you have systems that actually incentivize this type of content to travel. You have groups that are allowed to form on these platforms, then go out and target various people. And so
this is another thing. You're saying these groups are forming online. So from the very beginning of just for Megxit, Harry and Meghan, for example, I mean, of course, they've been weaponized against society with their tactics here, using these tactics. The people on YouTube, they were not a group. There were individuals who wanted to comment on what they were seeing. It was published all over the mainstream media. You couldn't escape it. So naturally, people got on YouTube and said, did you see this article? This happened or that happened, Harry and Meghan. And then immediately Harry and Meghan with Christopher Bouzy and the CIA turn around and say, look, there's this group of middle-aged white women and they're all colluding together and scheming together. And that was a typical... They were accusing us of what they were doing. Because people on YouTube were not a group. We were not working together. We're individual channels. We didn't know each other. We only knew each other from watching each other's YouTube videos, but otherwise there was no connections. But Harry and Meghan and the CIA and Christopher Bouzy and all these Marxist communists, they were grouping together to to try to stifle us and censor us and bring in their color revolution. So yeah, you can see how it's all now. It's so clear, you know. Whereas back then, you're like, what are they talking about, right? Yeah, stop following the gruesome twosome. Yeah, gaslighting us since day one. Yeah, and try to bring in this dystopian system.
This is not sort of about the principles of free speech where I can say what I want as long as it's not sort of liable, or I can say what I want as long as I'm not yelling fire in a crowded theater and not be arrested for it, right? This is about platforms which have created systems that monetize certain type of content to travel, to target, to create a hostile climate for people. And what we're saying to these platforms is that,
well, if they're getting monetized and the videos are traveling far enough, that means people like it and the population agrees. Oh, populism. Oh no, that's the real enemy for these two, is populism. Right? Because you don't make money, you don't get monetized unless a lot of people like your stuff. So he's complaining about that. Like, this populism is rising up and it's getting monetized. We got to stop that. That's the real problem for these globalists.
you have a responsibility to keep the people inside of these platforms safe from that type of targeting and harassment. If I go into a restaurant tomorrow and sit down to eat,
again, there are already laws about targeting and harassment. So obviously the platforms don't need to do anything. So this is not about targeting and harassment, except again, they're using the definition of targeting to mean if you don't believe in the 655 genders, then that's targeting harassment in their opinion. So again, this is all just such Orwellian nonsense from the Chia.
when we could go into restaurants and sit down and eat. And someone just started coming up to me and yelling hateful things while I was sitting there on, to eat. I could have recourse against that restaurant. I could push back. I would hold that restaurant accountable for keeping a safe sort of environment for me. And these platforms are doing something much worse, because in many ways, what they've done is create a system that amplifies this to the 10th, 100th, 1,000,000th degree.
Well, actually, if somebody comes and harasses you in a restaurant, is yelling at you, the restaurant would probably call the authorities, and it would be the police. But he doesn't want to mention the police because the Marxist communists hate the police because they defend the capitalist system. Yeah. I mean, this is ridiculous, this whole thing.
Great. And make...
And you can't equate a YouTube video or whatever online with somebody, interrupting your meal in a restaurant and screaming at you. Videos are not screaming at you. You click on it. It's your responsibility. If you don't like it, you just click off of it. And I find it interesting that he uses the example of someone going into a restaurant and yelling at you, because this is exactly what the Marxist communists did in 2020, attacking, members of Congress and other people, just regular everyday people. They would go into restaurants. You couldn't eat in a restaurant or outside, and they would attack you. They'd scream at you and attack you and bully you and threaten you. So I find it interesting that, because that's what his people did, his Marxist communist group. So I find it interesting that he uses that example as his justification for censoring freedom of speech online. Him and Harry here. Look how stupid Harry looks. What the hell are you doing here, Harry? Go home, you traitorous, treasonous devil.
This sort of hostile climate, something that is not only acceptable, but incentivizes it in very powerful ways.
And speaking of incentivizing hostility, how much are those BLM and protesters and the protesters this weekend getting paid by NGOs and George Soros? I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm hearing some money going around. I know Dr. Carolyn Borisenko says, no, they're doing it on their own, but I don't know. There's a lot of bricks being laid around that somebody paid for, as well as everything else. And somebody's paying for this, and somebody's paying for Harry to be here and do this. So there's a lot of investment going around. And look at all the Netflix money Harry and Meghan get, Spotify. That's money being supporting this garbage.
Well, you've answered the second part of the question. So I'd throw into you then. So for people of color and for people from minority groups, what is their experience of being on these platforms? Like, what we're talking about now is like, these are global platforms. I mean, Facebook itself is what, 2.4 billion people. I mean, it's a continent in itself. And so many of these other platforms.
So again, he goes, what is their experience? Because of course, their experience is all that matters to him. But again, this is divide and conquer tactics to bring in the race division. But also, there's something else I was going to say. I can't remember now. Well, maybe it'll come to me later.
There are no rules. There are no laws. So whereas they were created to connect people, they've now become these platforms that, yes, they're still doing that in certain pockets, but this is very much where some of these platforms are profiting from division.
Actually, people coming together is exactly what his issue is as a globalist. They don't want us coming together worldwide and pushing back against them after what we saw with COVID and how the globalists and how organized and strategic all the globalists controlled governments are around the world. This is what terrifies them, is people around the world getting together and communicating and working together against them.
I mean, yeah, you're either you either are allowed to be part of these systems and structures which create connection, which create job opportunities, which create education opportunities, or you have to remove yourself because society has targeted you already, and it places people in an incredible catch-22, all while there are folks in Silicon Valley making billions upon.
So he's complaining that people have to remove themselves. No, they don't. They're removing people. These Marxist, communist, globalists are removing people.
Billions of dollars off of it. And so, people end up with between a rock and a hard place when we are dealing with these platforms and the ways in which they've been structured. Like I said, inequality is not unfortunate like a car accident. It has been manufactured. And so there's a whole set of choices in how these platforms have been designed and what they monetize and what they incentivize.
See, again, so what have they attacked over the years? They've demonetized anyone with the wrong opinion. And talk about inequality. We think Harry is at the same level financially as the rest of us, right? Yeah, we're talking about inequality here, all right. The globalists try to oppress and demonetize poor people, which is exactly what Prince Harry has done with his comrades here.
That gets us to the world that we're experiencing, and which makes it so that if you are someone who is already targeted and attacked, you're deeply susceptible. The whole reason why color.
Yeah, speaking of being targeted, I've been targeted. I've lost 4 channels. So yeah, they're targeting people. I've lost my channels because of these people, this man and Prince Harry and their group. They have demonetized, deplatformed, and targeted me, and I get I get no recourse. There's no justice. Where's, and yet they're going to preach here like they're doing something about it when they're causing it with this.
Change got into this work around tech accountability was because 5 years ago, our members were being harassed and targeted. Black Lives Matter activists were being harassed and targeted.
They're claiming they were harassed and targeted. BL at Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter that went out to the street, murdered dozens of Americans, destroyed property, attacked everyone, young, old, didn't matter. And he's flipping it around. Oh, we were harassed and targeted while we were burning down your store. We were harassed and targeted for us when we murdered Officer Dorn. I mean, this is so evil. The way these evil satanic people try to flip things around. It's just spinning it. It's just so evil. This is Satanism written all over this thing. This must have been some satanic ceremony they had before this video. I'm telling you.
Something called doxing, where they put your public where they put your personal information.
Oh, doxing. Isn't that what Harry and Meghan did when they revealed all the identities of people on Twitter back in 2019? Yeah, they doxed all these British citizens and said, oh, this woman said Meghan was ugly. Her name is so-and-so, and she lives at this address, and she works as a nurse. Remember that? And now he's flipping it around and saying, oh no, we're dogs. It's so terrible.
Out publicly. And folks can then show up to your home and harass you offline. And that was happening, and Facebook refused to.
And that's what Prince Harry's and Meghan Markle's friend Christopher Boozy did with his little report, right? He doxed people.
Do anything about it. We watched as Facebook worked behind the scenes with
and Duchess of Narcissus, I believe, and others.
Law enforcement without the rules to turn off Facebook Live of people who were having interactions with police. They were working with companies to surveil activists. All of these things were happening. And what we realized is that this was, as you said, basically an unregulated government, an unregulated continent of people day in and day out making decisions based off of a hunch that they, were getting it right. And in return, we're putting a lot of people in harm's way.
But there are two other bits that firstly, what I hear you say from that is that these platforms are, the systemic racism itself is.
Oh, there he goes. He is such an idiot. Let me think. I think you're saying, well, systemic racism. Systemic racism is straight out of the communist book there, the Marxist communist lingo. When they say systemic racism, they mean capitalism. That's all it means. And they admit that. And Carolyn Borisenko, again, talks about it. So the fact that Harry just bursts out with this whole thing is so scripted. Oh, my God. But the guy before him, Rashid, didn't say anything about systemic racism. Harry's jumping in. This whole thing is choreographed. Harry's reading a script. It's so obvious, it looks like to me.
Is manufactured and created in a way that if done properly, you shouldn't be able to see it. You shouldn't be able to recognize it, which is why it's survived and existed for so long.
And the whole part of
you shouldn't be able to see it. That's why it's existed for so long. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Systemic racism is that it's not simply about you being a nice person and you doing nice things and you being good and nice to Black and brown people in your environment. This is about structures that have created rules that replicate themselves over and over, that benefit and prioritize.
Structures that have made rules over and over. In other words, the capitalist government.
Whiteness in the world and in this country. And then whiteness, again, a double speak here. He flips back and forth between race and but it also refers to capitalism. People who like capitalism and their capitalist society are white, no matter what color their skin is. Make the climate harder for people because of who they are. And so when we are working to dismantle systemic racism, I don't want to say that there's nothing.
Dismantling systemic racism is dismantling the government and overthrow it. That's what he's talking about, and Harry supports this.
Individuals can do, but what I want to make it clear is that your individual actions, how you treat people alone, doesn't end systemic racism. You getting in motion, being part of something to change it, is what we do to undo it.
Yeah, you being in motion, part of the group, the communist Marxist group, and rioting in the streets, that's how they're going to change it. Yeah, destroy everything until you cry for mercy, and they can bring in their communism.
Really appreciate something that, I appreciate a lot of things that Meghan has said, but she said one thing recently when she spoke to young women as part of the...
That's that speech she gave where she said, push us harder. I mean, trying to rile young people up.
Girls Up movement. She said something like, and I'm pulling it up now so I can remember it, but she said something like that it is discomfort that actually creates the conditions to reimagine the standards.
The discomfort, you got to be uncomfortable. Yeah, pushing people, trying to cause people to destroy their own way of life in their warped, lying agenda here, the Marxist communism.
Policies are leadership to move towards real influence over the structures of decision-making and power. And she also said that
Yeah, structures of decision making and power. Yes, we've got to destroy them.
Imagining it, isn't it zero-sum game where one side wins and the other side loses? That it takes men and women, girls and boys, it takes all of us. And I think that that is so powerful in
Now, isn't that hate speech? She said men and women, girls and boys. Meghan Markle's hate speech there. Somebody take down that video.
recognizing that in order to change structures and systems, we all have to be in motion to reach that goal.
Yeah, I mean,
Constantly saying structures and systems when he's referring to the government.
for me, based on the youth and the younger generation, certainly the ones that I've met literally all over the world.
That's right, because the color revolution in China, that was done by the young people. So that's why there's such emphasis on the young people. By Meghan speaking to girls and trying to look young. And the same thing with Harry. That's why it's so important to them to be seen as a, quote, young couple, even though they're middle-aged and they're both pushing 50.
The same thing keeps coming up. And if there's a younger generation and they're all saying the same thing, that from, again, in a privileged position, a position of influence, my job, our job is to make that change, right? Because it's not just.
So Harry repeats this again and again, and he does it with his other activities that he does. Those girls on stage, like the young people, whatever they say, you know, and all those adults need to listen. So he's promoting a color revolution. He's saying the young people are Marxist communist trained now from the teachers in the schools who are Marxist communists. So now everyone has to do what they say because they've been indoctrinated into communism. So this is what Harry is pushing. He's saying, "Oh, my place of privilege, I got to help with this." The Diana Awards are a part of this. They're pushing Marxist communism, and the other thing that Harry's involved with. What's the other thing that he does with young people? I think it was at the Diana Awards. I think it was involved. It was from his Diana Awards thing that he's involved. They're doing the same thing.
Just a small group of people. It's a whole generation going, this is unjust, this is wrong, and there needs to be change. And they are.
Yeah, the whole younger Marxist communist indoctrinated generation said there needs to be change. We need to do it now. Bring in that communism. Bring in that globalist tyranny. Because in communism, you get the globalist 1% at the top control everything, and everyone else has nothing.
They are a generation that are more aware than previous generations, partly because of technology.
They're more aware because of technology. No, they're more aware. Communism, what he means is they're brainwashed and indoctrinated into communist thinking through the schools, and he's trying to relay this to older people, saying, well, they're just more aware of things and smarter than you because they've been on computers on the internet longer. Yeah, because we all know that social media and TikTok makes you so intelligent, and they're just superior intellects now. And you should listen to them because they're so smart, so much smarter than you who grew up reading books. This is what he's saying. This is what they all say. It's such insanity. It's unbelievable.
Technology and this sort of ability to travel the world through YouTube, probably. But I guess for me, it's about a reset, right? This is an opportunity.
Oh, there he goes. It's about a reset. A great reset. And the reset, of course, is about destroying. It's destroying to build back better. In order to build back better at first, you have to destroy everything first. And aren't they doing that with all their fires in California and the chemical spills everywhere and suspicious, weather changes? Oh my, yes, we need a reset. That there's Harry admitting this is a global reset. He's just admitted to it.
Opportunity for a reset. And I've always said that we need the youth to lead and guide the solutions because they have the answers. Some of the answers and the solutions that never existed before, they do now. And I think that message needs to land with today's leaders. There are solutions. Let's use them. Let's listen to the younger generation. Let's use them.
Yes, let's listen to the color revolution young people who are brainwashed and on TikTok 24/7. Yes, let's listen to them. They are all for communism, mainly because they don't want to work. And they like the idea of just being handed their digital coins. Yes, that's what Harry's pushing for here. Color revolution in America. Plain and simple.
because they're here to help. They're not here to get in the way. They're here to reform and set up the world that they want to inherit.
They're here to reform and set up the world they want to inherit. Communism. Stay out of their way, says Harry.
I've always sort of tipped my hat to them, but this inevitably will be uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah, it'll be uncomfortable as your house is burning to the ground, or you're being shifted to a tiny apartment, a micro apartment in the smart cities. It's gonna be a little uncomfortable when you have to eat bugs because they destroy the food, the sources, their mRNA injections. It'll be just a little uncomfortable. Yeah. Oh, by the way, you're going to have to take an injection every month so you can be on the hive mind. Yeah, it might be a little uncomfortable. In other words, you're going to be tortured and abused and and killed, because that's what happens with these color revolutions and communism. You don't agree with them, they're just going to kill you, and they've already started doing that with BLM.
Because it's not how things have been done in the past. This is very, very different.
Yeah, it's very, very different. Communism is very, very different from our capitalist free society. I agree. Finally, Harry says something that's correct.
So the older you are, the more experienced you are, of course, but we need to mix that experience with the younger generation's awareness. And if we can somehow combine the two, then everybody...
What the hell are you talking about, Harry? I mean, we're already doing that. We don't need Harry's help for the older generation to work with the younger generation. But that's not what Harry's talking about. Harry's talking about the older generation has to listen and do what the younger generation says, is what he's really going. He's trying to get older people to do what the young people tell you and shut up and just, do what they say.
Everybody will be able to see, okay, well, that's wrong, let's fix it. That's wrong, let's fix it. But let's act together. Through all the generations. Let's not break this down to age brackets. So I think there's a lot to do, but I think, again, there are so many young people around me. I always ask the questions, and I'm always wanting to learn from them. What is it that you see wrong? And
yeah, where did Harry's hair come from? He didn't have this much hair then, right? I think it's photoshopped in, because notice the hair on top of his head does not look the same as on the sides. I mean, it could be the lighting, but Harry did not have this much hair in 2020. He didn't just suddenly go bald. He was balding already in 2020. So I think they just computer generated, AI or whatever, because that's not his hair. He did not have that full head of hair. No way. I mean, you can tell he's got a filter on and all that. Him and Meghan with their filters, they're so gay. They really are.
Why? And what can we do about it? So, they are, I think, the best place to really, and they're so about hope and optimism, and that is exactly what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, young people are always full of hope and optimism because they're naive and young, and now they're brainwashed, thanks to you and the globalist UN brainwashing kids in school with all the garbage you've been feeding them and indoctrinating them in. You and the royal family behind it, all your globalist buddies.
I mean, I so appreciate that. I so appreciate this idea, right, of what does it mean that each generation, right, is advancing a new set of change, a new set of norms. I think.
I mean, if you're not thinking about how they're talking about a color revolution and bringing in communism, this entire video makes absolute nonsense. It's all gibberish sounding, right? It's like, oh yeah, younger generation get together with older generation and make the world a better place. I mean, it's like, what the hell? Why are you making a video even talking about this? It's already been going on from the beginning of time. You have to look at this in the idea that they are talking about a color revolution. It's the only way this makes sense. Otherwise, this is just jibber jabber, gibberish, idiocy, which is typically what Harry talks about.
Think about my niece and nephews as I'm doing this work constantly, and the world that they will get to experience, a world of more freedom, a world of more opportunity, a world of more possibilities to see themselves be anything they want to be. Maybe it's
freedom and becoming anything they want to be. That could only happen under capitalism. So you see this lying he's doing.
It's a civil rights activist, but maybe some of the things I'm working on have been dealt with in a way that they can simply be and do other things that they may want to do. You and Megan are envisioning a work of your own, ongoing work about building an organization and building community engagement that is rooted in compassion. Can you tell me more about that and tell me more about how these
Don't forget, compassion is the word Megan got from the Stanford Institute for this whole PSYOP. So I believe they're using compassion for communism. They're saying, oh, they bring this divisiveness in, and then they say, oh, you're also divisive here. The globalists are compassionate and will guide you.
conversations have been important to you with CEOs?
Well, first of all, as we said to you, the moment that we heard that you guys had started Stop Hate for Profit, we're like, come on, we've been talking to you for weeks. Like, how come you didn't even mention this? I love it. It was like, almost like a side project or whatever it was. We were like, guys, this is what we've been working on separately for months. This is absolutely perfect. How can we lend a hand? How can we help you guys really make this work? And yeah, you're right. We spoke to a lot of CEOs, but
so how can he do the hate speech agenda? Which like people in the UK? How many people in the UK have been that housewife that was thrown in prison because of one tweet or Facebook post complaining about children being killed by immigrants? And so that's what Harry wants here for sure. He's reconfirming it here. Yeah, how can we bring these hate speech laws here to America? Yes.
First of all, I'd like to say that we as a couple take absolutely no credit or responsibility for the decisions of companies. So our job was inform, and then also to be able to have an honest conversation as parents and say, listen, this is principle over profit. And that's exactly what every single one of them said. So I think it's
he's claiming that him and Megan are principle over profit. As Megan pushes her scam jam everywhere. Yeah, okay, Harry. But she sells every single outfit she ever wears on her website. But Megan is principle over profit. That's Megan. That's all right. Megan and Harry.
I take my hats off to everybody that joined the campaign. But the real key now is to make sure this lasts, and to make sure that we can actually see the proper change rather than go, okay, here's the end of July. That boycott part is over. But now we need to work out how we're going to carry this forward. There's this amazing pull factor that these platforms have, and it is a battle because it brings so much connection for so many people. But
so they're concerned with the social media platforms to only push their message and to silence anyone who doesn't agree with communism.
At the same time, it provides so much division, and it is, for so many of the young people that I've spoken to, it's a love-hate relationship. And I guess that's part of the addiction. But the danger of this addiction compared to cigarettes or alcohol is this one is tailored to the individual, and this is something that you can't get away from. It doesn't come with a warning, and I think there's a huge amount that we as society can do to help that. But touching on the other part of that question, this is very much sort of integral or part of our mission moving forward, certainly part of Archewell's mission. And we're taking sage advice from the right people, saying take your time, take a year if you need to. But online hate speech is without question part of our onward mission, and it's going to take a lot.
So him being against online hate speech is against populism and anyone who disagrees with their Marxist, communist, globalist agenda. So Harry's mission is to get rid of any national American who loves their country and the way it is and their way of life under capitalism. Harry is admitting here that his mission with his wife is to destroy all that.
Having learned what I've learned from this campaign and from speaking to you guys and ADL and NAACP.
ADL, and the NAACP.
Speaking to Jonathan, Derek, and yourself, it's been an education. It's been a real sort of awakening again for me to be able to see how you guys have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis and your communities have to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. But the biggest question that I have to anybody out there is, why wouldn't you want to be part of this change? What is the reason?
Why wouldn't you want to be part of this color revolution? You want to destroy your way of life. Why wouldn't you want to live under the jackboot of tyranny of globalists like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle? Because they get to be at the top and they get to do whatever they want. And if they don't like your opinion, you disappear literally and figuratively. And they've already started doing that.
Why, you know what the problems are, you know how big they are. You can argue, yeah, we're doing something about it, or you can argue, I'm not on that platform, I don't do social media. But if you are connected in some shape or form, whether it's through commercial gain or through advertising, through just
Oh, you mean like you and your wife who have made millions off of these platforms?
being a user, whatever it is, we all know how big the problem is. Why wouldn't you want to be part of the solution? And that,
yeah, the solution is, Harry, putting you in prison. That's the solution. You and that ugly wife of yours.
to me, is if you can't answer that honestly, then again, I think you are part of the problem rather than part of the solution. We have children all over the world.
Oh, you're part of the problem, not part of the solution. Stealing an American quote. Loser.
We have young people all over the world. We have campaigns, groups, hate groups that are being created and being pushed as recommendations to people. And I think it's
all these hate groups that want to enjoy their freedoms and their freedom-loving country that does not want communism. Harry just hates, so they're being recommended because they're so popular. It says, damn populist movements, they need to be put out. They're hateful.
It's way beyond a problem. It's now a global crisis, and well done to you guys for making the progress that you have during this month of July. But now, as we progress into August, there's a real chance for more and more people to be part of this.
Yeah, I mean, part of what.
And as we know, Harry and Meghan are pushing young people to censor each other. They're trying to make censorship popular here. They think they're so clever. It's so evil.
We're trying to do is keep a level of the momentum, but use this opening, this conversation that's now opening, the conversations I'm having with you, conversations with CEOs, the conversations across mainstream media, where I think more and more people are aware of the harms that this platform is causing and are not just seeing it as a bunch of individual acts, but seeing it as part of a larger structure. And how do we undo that? I think all of that is so incredibly important in this moment.
Rashad, finally, like with all the hate, the racism, the extremism, the prejudice, there's a long list. What is your source of hope? The thing that inspires you to get up each morning and keep pushing to rewrite the norms and create better, safer spaces, better conditions for all of us?
In the last 8 months, over 8 million people have joined Color of Change to take action. Raising their voices in their local communities, signing petitions, and many more have joined other groups locally and nationally. Culture change, political change is so incredibly important.
Culture change, political change is so important. Wait, I thought we were talking about all those hate speech online, what platforms need to do. So you see how obvious it is? He's talking about a color revolution and taking over the country with it, communism.
And people are raising their voices in new and powerful ways. And if it means anything to do this work, it means that you have to be an optimist.
And they're always talking about do the work. And on Archwell, they're like, we show up, we do the work. That's communism. That's straight out of communism, that phrase.
You have to believe that change is possible. And I believe that right now, the people who are signing up, showing up, raising their voices, are ready for something new. And I believe that we have to do the work to give it to them. And that, for me,
there he goes again. We have to do the work. The little commies.
Is incredibly inspiring, and it makes me not just hopeful about what's possible now, but it makes me hopeful about what's possible for generations to come.
So that they flip around, what's possible for generations to come, he says. Yeah. Communism is what he's talking about for generations to come. Yeah, they start off talking about, we just want to stop all this hatred online. It's getting nasty online with doxing and everything. Although Harry and Meghan have done that to regular people. Yeah, but then they flip that. But when you really listen and you look at it through the lens of this is a color revolution and they're talking about bringing in communism, and they slip out things, changing everything for generations to come. I mean, it's quite clear what Harry and Meghan are doing. And this is video is perfect in showing that. And yeah, so that's it. I just wanted to react to this because I don't even remember this video when it came out. I'm sure it just so many things going on in August 2020. So it's great. So thanks again to TRG for bringing this out to our attention. And yeah, so Harry is satanic and evil and communist, trying to bring it onto us, trying to bring us under tyranny. And he wants to keep it going. And Harry and Meghan, why hasn't he been deported yet? That's my only question. He needs to be deported. And if anything, would love to. He should be imprisoned for his treasonous, traitorous activities, but he's not going to be because he's King Charles's son. But at least get him deported, because he is an enemy of this country, no doubt. So there you have it. That's why I just want to go through because I just felt like the video is really bothering me. So I hope you got something out of it. What do you think of Harry's performance here with all that hair on his head suddenly? So thanks all for listening. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.